Hey guys, welcome in. It's Brad with College SportsCast. We're here to do the Big Fuss Show, and we are here to do the college football playoff bracket reveal.
Can I please have your attention?
It's all a commotion around here.
What are you talking about?
Let them yap at you.
It's actually very exciting.
All right, guys. It is Brad with College Sportscast. We're here to do the Big Fuss Show. This is week 16, and we're in season 3. Hammonds is with me tonight. We're here to talk about on Sunday, they did the college football playoff reveal, and we're here to kind of discuss that before we get started. I do want to say if you are on Facebook with us, we appreciate you. We are growing. About 2 hours ago, we were about 15 people, John, from 3,000 on our College Sportscast Facebook page.
Not bad.
So we're getting
bad.
real close to 3,000. If you're with us, if you're with us, you can help support us by sending stars, or you can subscribe to our page for just 99 cents a month. We would appreciate that. It does help us earn a little bit of money to continue to make content for you guys. So, and if you're on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. We are trying to get there for YouTube. We're getting close to 700 on YouTube, and growing there as well. So,
And now
we
I'm
appreciate
officially
you there as well.
writing articles for Stadium Rent, which I love.
Yep, you are, and we'll kind of get to some of those articles and stuff towards the end of the show here. But I do want to talk a whole lot about the college football playoffs tonight. I mean, it's going to be the very first 12-team playoff. The bracket was revealed on Sunday. You know, the top 4 teams who get buys are the conference winners, the highest 4 conference winners this time. I don't know that I agree with that. I think it should be the top 4 teams. I think that needs changed, to be honest with you. But this time they are Oregon at 1. Number 2 is Georgia. Number 3 is Boise State out of the Mountain West Conference. And number 4 is Arizona State out of the Big 12. Now, Boise State, Arizona State was ranked 12th. That's the reason why. The reason why I'm saying I don't really agree with the seeding. I think the seeding needs changed.
Yep.
Because in normal playoffs, John, your top 4 teams get buys, not the 9th ranked team and the 12th ranked team. You know what I mean? It makes it a little uneven, unbalanced.
No, that's kind of where I wanted to come in real quick about the whole things that I think should be changed about the college football playoff. You know, having transparency. You know, the head-to-head stuff that me and you talked about. You know, I think head-to-head matters when it comes to this stuff, especially, you know, like with Alabama beating South Carolina. I felt like if Alabama got in, that should be the reason why they got in. You know, the biggest thing to me is when you got teams like Ohio State, they play Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon. But then you got Penn State. They didn't get Indiana, Oregon, or when Georgia plays Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee, but Texas misses all of them. I think it should go to the team that actually plays those teams and actually wins those games. And you know, if they're not going to commit to this criteria, then fix a new one. Why not develop, you know, a net ranking like college basketball? Bring in a net ranking that would.
They do. Actually, I wrote an article on Stadium Rant that includes some of this stuff. If you were reading my article, it come out today at noon. and I'll talk about a little bit about it towards the end of the show.
Well,
but I did write an article about some of this stuff. To be
another
honest,
thing that really bothers me, Brad, is since the brackets come out, I'm not real happy with some of the draws. There's a couple draws. I'm gonna speak on one real quick. You got Oregon, the one.
We will. Yeah.
I mean, there's some things there that I don't like, but
I just talk about the bracket first before we kind of dig into the paths, because we really haven't kind of discussed the bracket. So 1 through 4 with the buys are those games and those teams, and they're waiting in the what's really called the quarterfinals. The first round games, and I'll get to these right now. So you've got the 8-9 game is Tennessee and Ohio State and Tennessee. This game is at Ohio State. They get the home game here, the first round on campus versus Tennessee, and they're matched up with Oregon as the 1 seed. Then you get the 6-11. Penn State is 6-11. SMU got in over Alabama, even though they lost, but they were 8. They fell 3 spots. They're number 11. So 6-11 was Penn State, SMU, and they get Boise State. All right. Then you got Indiana, 10. Notre Dame is 7. They get Georgia. And then I skipped one, and that's 5-12. And they get Arizona State. And 5 is at Texas. The 8-9 is at Ohio State. Penn State is in Happy Valley. And Notre Dame is in South Bend against Indiana. Now, that's an interesting matchup, I think, the Notre Dame-Indiana matchup.
And then you got the top 4 buys, which are Oregon. Number 2 was Georgia. Number 3 was Boise State, and then you got Arizona State. And then you had the snubs.
Yeah, I said who they were matched up with.
Which was basically the teams that were left out, which were Alabama and Miami. I thought Miami, play a better schedule, the way I look at it. You lost to Georgia Tech. I knew when they lost to Georgia Tech that they probably would not get in. Now, Alabama had a chance Saturday night. Had SMU won the title game, the ACC title game, but them losing to Clemson kind of pretty much pushed Clemson in, and they rewarded the ACC championship. So that pretty much took Alabama out of the college football playoffs. So, which I felt like,
it did. But here's the thing. SMU lost on a 56-yard last-second field goal, 34-31. It wasn't like SMU got spanked by Clemson in this game. I thought being 11-1 in the season and being the 8th-ranked team, I thought you do kind of have to protect, in my opinion, the championship games. If you don't, there's no reason to play the championship games.
Here's another thing.
Miami or in front of them. There's no reason to play them if you don't protect the championship the teams.
I think they should reseed the teams after the first round, in my opinion. The whole field.
Well, see, I don't agree with that. You know why? Because I feel like that you should seed the teams. The top 4 teams that get the buys should be the top 4 ranked teams, not the conference winners. The conference winners can get the automatic bids, but the top 4 teams just need to be seeded 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Here's another thing. I
don't care if they're at-large teams or conference winners or what they are. Just seed them right.
Here's another
thing
simple I want to add to this. Remember, the seeds don't even match the rankings right now. You got Tennessee and Ohio State. They're both ranked high by the committee, more than Arizona State and Boise. Remember, like I said, the seeds don't match the rankings.
They don't. It makes no sense.
Yeah,
the seedings and the rankings are not it makes no sense. I'm telling you, there have been people. I mean, Joe Klatt's talking about just reseed them after the first round. No, that's not what needs to happen. They just need to be seeded right from the beginning.
Here's the issue that I have with it. You have a conference champion in Oregon. So they're slotted to face a higher ranked team, but a lower seeded opponent. Well, guess what? Their reward for winning the Big Ten championship is no home game. And I don't think that's fair, Brad, to be honest. That's –
well, now the home games, I love the home games in the first round. The bye teams, they're in. They get a bye. They're not in the first round, so they don't get the home games. I understand that one. That's not a big deal. The problem with it is the seedings. There's no reason that you should seed the bye teams as the conference championships winners. You should seed the bye teams as the top 4 ranked teams. You don't, in the NFL, they don't give byes to, it's the top 2 teams or whatever, or top 1 now. I mean, they get byes. I mean, though one of the conference, if you win that conference, you get a bye. I mean, or that division. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, seed the teams the way they're supposed to be seeded. It's really that simple.
Yeah, it's all screwed up.
If you're 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the rankings, then guess what seed you should get? 1, 2, 3, and 4, and get the byes.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that simple. I don't know why on earth, really, that it was set up the way that it is for this year. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but they are doing what was set up, to be honest with you. And because of what was set up, when you look at the paths, Oregon, who is the only undefeated team in the country, okay,
mm-hmm.
their path to win a national title after going through the entire season, going through the new Big Ten and winning the Big Ten, their path is either going to be Tennessee or Ohio State. Then they're going to have to go through Arizona State or Texas, and then Georgia, most likely.
Yep.
They have one of the toughest paths to win a title. Their reward for being undefeated and being the number 1 seed is that, okay? Now, Penn State gets SMU. Second round, if they win, they get Boise State. So they get SMU and Boise State, and then maybe Georgia to get to the championship game. Whereas Oregon has to play either Tennessee or Ohio State, possibly Texas, just to get to the championship game.
Yeah, it's brutal.
That's their reward. I mean, but you know why it's that way? It's because Penn State should actually be they're the 4th ranked team. They're number 4 in the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
But yet here they are as a 6th seed. instead of being where they should be in the 4 spot. That's why. That's what I'm talking about
And
in the rankings.
it's Penn State's first trip to the playoffs.
It is.
So
there are 6 teams that's in the playoffs for the very first time.
I'm going to say this real quick. The most intriguing game out of all this is Indiana Notre Dame, and I say that because of where they're located. It's great for the state of Indiana.
First round game, I kind of agree with you.
The state of Indiana, it's a big deal. Now, does Indiana go to Notre Dame and win? I don't know. It's going to be tough. But I think it's great for the whole state.
Yeah,
I think it's great for
let's talk about the first round games. Yeah, let's talk about the first round games to start with. Let's open that up with a first round game. So, John, what do you think about the Texas Clemson game in Austin? And this will be December 21st at 3 p.m. What do you think about the opening round game, the Texas Clemson game?
I really think it's tough. Go ahead.
Does Dabo have a shot here in Austin?
I think he can. But are we going to get the Clemson team that we saw at times that played really, really well? Or are we going to have the Clemson team that got blown out by Louisville? That's the question.
I mean, we're not picking games. I'm just what's your first thoughts on the Texas Clemson game? Do you think it'll be a good matchup?
I think it will be. I think it'll be a really good game. I'm excited about that one. I'm excited about Ohio State and Tennessee.
The next one that I want to talk about is the 8-9 game. That is Ohio State and Tennessee. This one will be played at the Shoe. And it's going to be December 21st as well. That one is a night game. It's at 7 p.m. And on the 21st, I think this could be possibly one of the best games.
I do.
Ohio State, Tennessee.
And I say that because, you got the Vols. Their defense is really, really good. They got probably the best run defense in the country. And you got an Ohio State team that, their defense is elite. I think they're first in FBS and SP plus. The Buckeyes are facing the 7th fewer number of deep passes in the country, with 9.9% of passes defended downfield, 20 yards downfield. Their defensive line ranks 5th nationally with a 43% pressure rate. Now their completion rate, I think, is 62nd in the country, but Nico has not really played that well. I don't think Nico is going to beat them down the field, over the top. So I look for this game to be really tight. I look for this game to be really close. I just don't think Tennessee is going to go in there and win. But at the same time, I've seen crazier things happen. So,
yeah.
So,
all right. So then the next game we're going to talk about is SMU at Penn State in Happy Valley. This game is also the 21st. It's a morning game. It's at 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern Time, and it's also on the 21st. And I've already heard Happy Valley is going to have a whiteout for this game.
It should be fun. That game should be a lot of fun. SMU runs a really fun offense with Rhett Lashley. I expect a lot of fireworks in that game. Penn State's a really, really good team. Oregon was just too overpowering, I think. I think to me, Oregon's the best team in it, but they did get a bad draw at the same time. So, but I think overall, these whole campus games are going to be fun to watch as we move forward.
They are going to be fun to watch. I think they are going to be fun. And then, of course, the last one is the Indiana is going to South Bend, a Notre Dame game. I mean, in state, we're talking about inside the same state. Indiana had probably the better overall season, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're both one-loss teams here. I mean,
Indiana
Notre
to
Dame
me
was ranked higher.
To me, Indiana's a Cinderella story. They've Kurt Signetti, his first season. They're averaging over 40 points a game. You got a team like Notre Dame that has a really stingy defense. Their passing defense is not great. I think Indiana's going to get some stuff downfield. I think Indiana, to me, can have enough offense to at least get past the 20-point marker. But can Indiana stop Notre Dame? That's the question, because they put up some numbers on USC and lost track of thought who I'm thinking about. Louisville. Was it Louisville? They put some points up on Louisville. And Louisville's got a pretty good defense. So I'm just interested to see how Indiana can handle stopping Notre Dame. Now, I think Indiana can score some points in this game, but I don't think it's going to be enough to win this game. But we'll see.
Well, the one thing I want to talk about real quick here with these first round games is absolutely kudos to the college football playoffs committee who decided to do these games on campus.
Yeah,
I love it. I
the
love
big thing.
the pageantry, everything about it for college football. I think it's the absolute best decision that was made by this committee to do these first round games on campuses. It's fantastic. I cannot wait to watch these games and be a part of this. We will pick these games. It will not be this week. We still have a little these games we will pick down not this Friday, maybe next Friday before the games. We will pick these games. But
we only have one
yet.
game
We're
this
just
week.
kind of talking about them right now.
We only have one game this week. We got one game.
Yeah, we do.
Army Navy.
Yeah,
that's it. Should be fun picking that because it's just one game.
So yeah, but I want the fans. We got some guys on here with us. I want everybody. They're kind of picking their teams and stuff, and I want you guys to know we will do that, but it's not time for us to do that just yet. But John, I wanted to ask you: did you like the fact that SMU got in and Alabama didn't, or do you think Bama really should have got in with their strength of schedule? I mean, how did you feel about that?
Yes and no. I felt like Indiana got Indiana on the mind. I'm cheering for them. That's all I can tell you. But Alabama, I felt like they had the wins against bowl eligible teams. They beat South Carolina that was improving. They beat Georgia at the time, but that was early in the year when Georgia was just getting a feel of their team. They won some good games, but SMU is a good team. They went to Louisville, beat a really good Louisville team. They beat BYU. I mean, what's not to like about SMU? But here's my thing that I thought was really the deciding factor to me was when I saw SMU lose that game Saturday night. I thought to myself, Alabama's not getting in. Now, had they won, I think they had an opportunity because Clemson probably was not going to get in after back-to-back losses to South Carolina and SMU. I mean,
Clemson would not have got in.
You saw
Yeah.
glimpses.
They would have not got in.
You saw glimpses of Alabama all year. At times, Milroe did some great things at times, and then there was the dud game against Oklahoma. I felt like, to me, that they got the right teams in, the 12 teams in. I felt like there was no really loser in this. I don't even think Alabama's a loser in this. I just think they just didn't do what they needed to do. Now, if they beat Oklahoma, they're probably in. But they didn't do that. They lost that game.
They
can't
are.
go back and
They would
change
be.
that. But they would be in this field. But can't go back and change things.
And it was the way they lost it as well, John.
Yeah, it's the way
it wasn't just that they lost on the road. It was the way they lost by only scoring 3 points, losing 24-3 to a team that they were a 3-touchdown favorite against.
And Milroe had a really bad game too.
I mean,
the whole team just played bad overall.
So here's what I want to say. I gave the committee kudos for the home games. I also have to give them big props here for not going with the big brand, because it very well could have been, because let's be honest, guys, Alabama, the name Alabama is going to bring the college football playoff more views and more money if they get in. It's just that's just the way it is. You can not like it all you want, but I got to give huge props to the committee here for weighing these two teams and having a team that's 11-2 versus a 9-3 team, had a better overall year, and they got in over the biggest brand probably in college football that would bring the most eyes, the most ticket sales, everything that you can come up with. People are going to pay attention if Bama sneaks in. That's just all you can say. And I got to give props to the committee for doing what was right. I think SMU deserved the spot.
Yeah, and to back off what you said about SMU, I was, watching some interviews and stuff on ESPN, and Brett Lashley said, "I'm really, really, really happy." He was ecstatic. He got emotional. SMU has been in a tight spot the last couple of years, 3-4 years, and to see them rise above the ashes, no pun intended, Dan Hurley.
No, they actually did rise above the ashes. I mean, they got the death penalty.
Yeah, they did.
Let's be honest.
They did.
I mean, there is no other story. Like, you're talking about a team who had to rise up from the death penalty in college football. I know this was 35 years ago, and people nowadays just forget about it. But I'm telling you, there was a time that this program was non-existent.
By the way, if everybody's wondering what,
and for SMU to literally rise above the ashes, to make the first 12-team college football playoff, amazing.
What I'm referring to about Dan Hurley,
John.
What I'm referring to, Brad mentioned to me a couple of days ago about Aiden Mahaney, something that Dan Hurley had mentioned in a post-game conference about rising above the ashes, about Aiden Mahaney playing better in the Baylor game. I was kind of referring to that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got you. But I'm being dead serious. SMU was left for dead. For real. That's for real. Had no program for like 3 years. I'd have to look it up to remember exactly how long it was. But they were non-existent, penalized, and put in that situation. And I know it's been 30 years. I know it's been 35 years, whatever it's been exactly. I would have to look it up. But I'm telling you, to be in the place that they are inside of a Power 4 conference, very first year, and to make this 12-team playoff is pretty astonishing, to be quite honest. So I know I just sat here and said Alabama is the brand, but SMU's the story. I'm just telling y'all the way I feel about it. Bama was the brand, but SMU's the story. The other night, I was watching the Clemson SMU game. Craig James, Eric Dickerson was shown several times on that sideline. And those are the teams, those powerhouse teams are the ones that eventually got SMU in trouble. And it's good to see them on the sideline supporting their old team. And because it wasn't their fault. They just played football. They were the running backs. They just played football. It wasn't their fault. But in my opinion, SMU's the story. All right, John, I am going to ask you, before we go off the 12-team playoffs here, give me some teams, give me a Final Four. Because, like, guys, we can actually talk about a Final Four in college football. It's going to be really fun, I think. Give me a Final Four. Who do you think will make the semifinals?
It's a good question.
We're not going to do our picks yet, but
I'm going to go Oregon, Arizona State, Georgia, and Boise State. I'm going to tell you, I know that
that's the four. That's the four top seeds. You're going Oregon, Arizona State, Boise State, and Georgia.
Yep.
Is that what you said?
I do. I think all four will make it. But now there might be a surprise in there, like Texas being the 5. But I'm going to tell you something. This might not be a popular pick, and I know this sounds kind of crazy, but Arizona State could win this thing.
Yeah, they're playing really good. I will give you that. But if they match up with Texas, that's going to be a tough matchup, man. That's going to be a tough game.
It's going to be really tough. Yeah. I think the Ducks
to make the Final Four. I
think the Ducks are the most complete team. Honestly, I think this is their best team since they had.
Here's my thing about Oregon. Oregon didn't look good, but they didn't look good the other day. They give up 37 points to Penn State.
Their offense is elite.
They didn't look good defensively the other day. Now
they
look good defense.
Their offense can score with anybody.
They are, but I'm just telling y'all, I didn't think Oregon looked that great the other day. And here's my thing. They match up with Ohio State in the quarterfinals. They snuck out a victory in Eugene, 32-31. Do you think they can beat them twice if they match up with Ohio State?
It's tough to beat a team twice.
I'm just throwing it out there. just throwing it out there. And I do like Boise State, and I do like Georgia. So the top two are the ones that I don't know. We'll see. So Josh says SMU, Boise State, Arizona State, and Indiana. Whatever. That's not going to happen, Josh.
Could you imagine if all four of them made it though?
Josh is, yeah.
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Think about this,
I
Brad.
hear you, Jared. I'm not saying you won't. I'm just saying it's going to be a tough game.
Think about this for a second. Could you imagine in a world where Indiana wins the national championship in football?
I think Indiana's going to have their hands full against Notre Dame in South Bend. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I said the same.
And I do not think under any circumstance, really, even if Indiana gets by Notre Dame, they're going to match up against Georgia.
Yeah.
Do we really think Indiana's going to beat Georgia in the quarterfinals?
No, but
that's the quarterfinals, not semifinals.
The biggest thing with Georgia is how's Carson Beck's injury. You know, you're throwing a guy like Beck.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's Beck.
You throw a guy like Stockton in there in a big moment.
I mean, the biggest question with Georgia is Beck.
Yeah. So
I agree with you. But I'm going to tell you guys, this Boise State offense is the real deal.
They're good.
They're dangerous.
Very
They're
dangerous.
good, man. This Boise State offense is the real deal. The real deal. Ask Oregon, Jared Murphy. I mean, for real, they had them on the ropes. In Eugene. I know it was early. I get it. Oregon wasn't playing great early on. But I'm going to tell you, Boise State is the real deal. Now, I'm not going to say their defense is fantastic. They're decent. But I'm going to tell you their offense is elite. Elite. I think they could be, if you ask me, a team that could surprise, I would pick Boise State. I'm not saying they're going to win it. I'm just saying if I was going to sit here and pick a team that could surprise people and be in that Final Four, be in the semifinals, it could be Boise State. Look, Jared's an Oregon guy. Telling you, they're the real deal. I think they're a team that could surprise and be in the semifinals. And they were ranked 9th in the rankings. I know they're third seeded, but they were ranked 9th in the rankings. All right, Josh this time says Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas. All right, John, before we move off football, I want to ask you about bowl games. Do people care anymore now that we got a 12-team playoff?
Not really.
I guess if you're an Alabama fan and you're playing Michigan, if you're just a Florida fan and you're playing Tulane.
I just think the bowl games have lost a lot of luster now that guys are opting out. You know, the transfer portal now, it's just not what it used to be anymore. Used to when you saw games of this magnitude, like on the schedule like it was a big deal. But now you basically just the playoffs and the national championship. We're just playing for that now. It's basically just you're playing runner up to.
I mean, there's like 32 or 34 bowl games or something. And I'm not sure anybody even cares.
I don't think many do.
I mean,
now I will say during Christmas, I'm one of those guys that likes to watch the
yep, because there's no basketball.
Well, the Christmas games.
Thank God. There's a few bowl games to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you got a couple on Christmas Eve. Then you got one on Christmas Day, I think. And then you have a couple games right after the 26th, 27th. But, I like some of those little games, like the Myrtle Beach game.
I'll watch a few around Christmas time.
Now, there's a few of those games that get really intense.
Yeah.
Some of those smaller schools, when they play, it gets kind of wild sometimes. But other than that, to me, it's just not I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore.
All right, guys, we're going to go from there, and I am going to talk a little bit about women's basketball now. Kentucky is ranked 16th in this week's poll. They did drop after losing on the road to North Carolina last week. They had a bounce-back game last night. They're 8-1. I want to run through the women's poll real quick. UCLA is 1. UConn is 2. South Carolina is 3. LSU moved up 1 spot to 4. USC is 5. Texas is down 2 spots to 6. They lost to Notre Dame in the ACC SEC challenge, just like Kentucky lost to North Carolina. Maryland is 7. Notre Dame is 8. Duke is 9. Oklahoma is 10. Ohio State is 11. TCU is 12. Kansas State 13. North Carolina 14. West Virginia 15. Kentucky 16. Michigan State 17. Iowa State 18. Tennessee moved into the poll after some really, really impressive wins. Up 7 spots, was unranked last week at 19. Michigan is 20. Iowa is 21. North Carolina State is back into the poll at number 22. Ole Miss is and NC State is tied at 22. Nebraska is 24 and Georgia Tech is 25. I talked about the South Carolina TCU game. We talked about it last week. South Carolina kicked the living crap out of them, like 83-52 or something the other day. And then we had the big game, Texas and Notre Dame, that Notre Dame won in overtime. North Carolina took care of Kentucky. There were some big games in that ACC SEC challenge in women's college basketball. UConn beat Louisville this past weekend and knocked Louisville out of the top 25. Alabama lost. They got knocked out. So just a few things on the women's side of college basketball here. The one thing I do want to mention is Kentucky goes to Purdue on Saturday. The game is played almost the exact same time as Kentucky and Louisville plays in the men's side. I don't understand why they do that, but this game is played at Purdue, and it's a true road game that the women are going on Saturday. John, it's an important game for Kentucky women's basketball this Saturday.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride so far this year. They had the little screw up with North Carolina where they didn't play real well, but other than that, they've had a really good year. Which it wasn't really a screw up; it was just
And this
just
road game,
they couldn't shoot.
Yeah, well, this bounce back game here. they just didn't play well. Let's just be honest. The first time on the road, they just didn't play well. So what I'm saying is they go back on the road to a Purdue team that's not as good as North Carolina. It's a team that Kentucky should be able to beat, but going on the road for the second time this year, I'm hoping to see them bounce back and play better on the road. You know, and I know going on the road to power conference teams and within the SEC is tough, and they're going to have to get better at going on the road. All right, man. I'm going to move on to men's basketball. John, do you have the poll? Or here, I can get it real quick. The new number one this week, week 6, college basketball, is the Tennessee Vols. I'm not sure what I think about this, but this poll is weird, and weirder, okay? Auburn, who got beat by Duke and moved up to number 2. Then you got Iowa State at 3. Then you got Duke, who beat Auburn at 4. Then you got UK at 5, who beat Duke, and Duke has 2 losses. I'm not sure what the voters were thinking with how this played out, but the top 5 is really weird, if you ask me. What do you think, John? Don't you think the top 5 is completely messed up?
I mean, I think a lot of it
in the new poll.
I think a lot of the poll right now has a lot to do with, Kentucky losing at Clemson and Duke won twice in a week. I think that had a lot to do with things. So I think that's part of the reason why I think Kentucky dropped.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with Kentucky dropping. I just don't really understand putting Duke ahead of them when they have 2 losses and one of them was to Kentucky.
I get you.
I mean, I don't know. I just don't get that. Marquette is 6, Alabama 7, Gonzaga is 8. Florida moved all the way up to 9, guys. They moved up 4 spots inside the top 10. Kansas fell to 10. Purdue fell to 11. Oregon is 12. Oklahoma moved up 8 spots to 13. Michigan is 14. Houston 15. Clemson moved up 10 spots to 26. After beating Kentucky. Texas A&M 17, UConn 18, moved up 7 spots after their trip to Maui. I'm not so sure about that one either. Ole Miss 19, Wisconsin 20, Michigan State 21, Cincinnati 22, San Diego State comes in at 23, UCLA 24, and Mississippi State is back at 25. All right. Tennessee just beat Miami. You're right. We saw that before we went on the air. Josh, I have no idea. I'm not sure. I think the top 5 is completely messed up, if you ask me. I mean, Auburn didn't drop and got beat. I'm not saying that they should have dropped far, but, I mean, they should have dropped. I'm not sure how you move Duke in front of Kentucky. I mean, I think the whole thing is kind of messed up. And, yes, Alabama is good, and the SEC is going to be an absolute nightmare, if you ask me, John. John's got an article about it. We'll talk about our articles towards the end here. But, John, do you think it's possible that the winner of the SEC has like 5 league losses? Because I do. on the road in this
I
conference.
do.
It's not
I
going to be
think so.
easy.
I think you're going to see a SEC team with probably 5 losses, maybe even 6. SEC is going to be absolutely brutal. It's going to be a gauntlet every single night. There's going to be games where each night there's probably going to be a quad 1 game everywhere you look in the SEC on the league schedule. And that's not to mention the teams that are not great at the bottom that we thought would be not so good. You got teams like Vanderbilt, Georgia, Oklahoma.
Let's talk about those bottom teams. Let's talk about those bottom teams for a minute, John. I mean, the 16th, the team that was picked 16th is 9-1 and 4-0 against Power Conference teams, and that's Vanderbilt.
Yep. I mean,
I'm telling y'all, this is going to be one rough conference. These Kentucky fans that are so used to Kentucky only having 2, 3, 4 losses, I'm telling y'all, it's going to be a nightmare going through this league. I feel like 13-5 might win this league out of the 18 games.
I agree.
That means you're going to have 5 losses just within the SEC. And then that's not counting going to the SEC tournament.
No, not at all. It's going to be like I said, it's going to be a gauntlet. It's going to be, a fight every night. There's going to be, games where it's going to go right down to the nitty gritty. You're going to have, basically it's going to be an all-out war, and they're going to cannibalize themselves, as John Rothstein puts it. They're just going to beat each other's brains out through the league schedule. And it overall,
do you think that will hurt the SEC in the long run?
No.
Do you think it'll hurt the SEC in the long run as far as seeding in the NCAA tournament?
No. I think when you look at all the teams that are all together, there's maybe 1 or 2 teams that are quad 2 teams, and the rest of the time it's going to be quad 1 opportunities. All like you could raise your resume, you could lose 1 game, and then come back and have another resume win the next night, or the next week. I don't think it's going to matter on seeding now. Teams like Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn, they can't afford 4 or 5 losses in league play if they want a 1 seed. I don't think they're going to have to win some games and keep.
Yep, I'm thinking that it will happen. I think all of these teams. I think the top SEC team is going to likely have 5 losses.
They are
just within league play.
They are.
So if you take Auburn and Kentucky and Tennessee and have 5 losses, they're not going to be ranked 1, 2, and 4 with 5 losses. I mean, that's just not going to happen. That's what I'm talking about. They're going to be more like 8, 10, and 12 with 5 league losses as far as rankings. But I think the SEC is that tough. I really do. It's going to be brutal going through this SEC. Yep. I really do believe that.
I do too. It's going to be tough.
All right, so Saturday we play Louisville. Let's quickly talk about the Louisville game on Saturday. What's your thoughts with Pat Kelsey and Louisville and heading into this game on Saturday between Kentucky and Louisville?
I think it's huge for the state, for the Bluegrass. Pat Kelsey. I actually got an article coming out tomorrow about the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry and what it truly means. So it'll be. I think it's supposed to be out tomorrow at 1:00. So be on the lookout for it. But I think it's a big deal when it comes to this rivalry, what it means to the fans. And, now that you got Mark Pope and you got Pat Kelsey in this new era of basketball in the Bluegrass, I think it'll be exciting. I know Louisville's got a couple guys out. They got Deshaun Pryor. He's been out with an injury. He tore his ACL, I believe. We still got Lamont Butler out. Not sure if he's going to play tomorrow night against Colgate. But I'm looking forward to it. They got
Chris
a guy.
is out.
Yeah, and they got a guy named Chucky Hepburn that might be one of the best guards in the country. He shined a lot in the battle for Atlantis. I think he had 30-something points in one of those games. So he's a guard to be careful about. But I think Kentucky wins this game. I just think the lack of depth that Louisville has is going to hurt them going forward in this game and going into ACC play. Pat Kelsey's going to do a really good job there, but there's just a lack of depth there that they need to fix next year at least for the portal.
I mean, I agree with you. I think Kelsey has done a pretty good job considering where Louisville came from under the former coach here that's now back with Calipari at Arkansas, because they were a dumpster fire the last 2 or 3 years.
They were.
Clyde, I agree with you.
Unfortunately,
he's not a bad coach. I'm not saying he is. I actually think he's done. I think he's actually done a pretty decent job considering where Louisville came from the last couple of years, to be quite honest with you. Now, unfortunately, they're having to deal with some injury. I think that's going to hurt them in the middle, losing their big guy, 12 points, 6+ rebounds. I think that's going to hurt them in the middle with Kentucky. They only got about 6 or 7 guys healthy to play on this game on Saturday. I think that's going to be an issue playing against this fast-paced Kentucky team. Gets up and down the floor. I expect Kentucky to win. I'm not sure by 50, Josh, just to put that up there. But I do expect Kentucky to win this game on Saturday and move on towards the SEC play, which I'm warning everybody now is going to be absolutely brutal. Night in and night out. All right, so we are with Stadium Rant now.
And this is just not Kentucky we're talking about. We're talking about Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia. It's going to be brutal for everybody.
Yes.
Everybody's going to
Yeah, I'm talking about everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. We're both writing for Stadium Rant now. I've got a couple of other people that's doing some writing with Stadium Rant, and go to stadiumrant.com. You can check us out. We've been putting stuff up almost every single day. John's already put out about 3 or 4 articles. 2 of them earlier this week were Kentucky articles. And then today, we both had articles come out. Mine was about the college football playoff and what should stay and what should go. Check out that article. John put out an SEC basketball article today. It come out today, this afternoon. Check them out. He did a little ranking for the top 4 teams and did a little ranking on the SEC basketball and talked about it. Doing a good job with Stadium Rant, and we're both learning and doing a whole lot more. So on a great platform that has fantastic visual for their website and their articles. I was sitting beside Larry Vaught last night. If you're a Kentucky fan, you know who Larry Vaught is. I was sitting beside Larry Vaught last night. I pulled up one of my articles, and Larry was like, "What is that?" And he was just sitting right beside me, and he said, "What is that?" And he's pointing at my computer. And I said, "Oh, that's one of my articles on Stadium Rant." And he said, "Man, I really like the look of that. That's a nice," he said, that's a nice setup there. And Larry wanted me to send him my stuff so he could follow me and stuff. And this is Larry Vaught we're talking about. Like, this is, I don't know if, for everybody across the country. But if you're a Kentucky fan,
You know who Larry Vaught is.
Larry Vaught's kind of a
Or you should know who Larry Vaught is.
and he's respected. And for him to
Yeah.
say that about me and my article and the site that we're using, the website, the way the article looks, and the things that we are using, for Larry to say that about us and Stadium Rent and what we're doing was pretty nice. And I had to at least mention it here because it was just great, to be honest with you, to have that. So, all right, I'm going to go back up here real quick and kind of. Clyde says he's looking forward to the game Saturday. Talking about reading our articles. Clyde also says that Michigan is beating Arkansas 49-47. No, Arkansas, yeah, beating Arkansas 49-47. And yes, we do play Ohio State next Saturday. Jared says both were great reads. Appreciate that. Hopefully you're talking about mine and his today. We had two of them today, the college football playoff one that I did, talking about some of the ins and outs of the selection and the way they've done things and what should stay and what should go on the college football playoff. It was that was mine, and then his was the SEC basketball article. And yes, Larry Vaught is a legend, and it was just fantastic. Like I said, I was sitting beside him last night at the women's game, and I pulled up. We talked for just a minute, but he's a legend, and it's kind of intimidating, really, to be sitting beside him, to be honest with you. But I'm pretty cool. I talked to him for a few minutes before the game started and stuff, and then I pulled up. I was doing some stuff. I'm at the game and I'm reporting and doing some stuff. And I pulled up one of my articles, and it was one on Teone Key, which is a women's basketball player. And he pointed at my screen and he said, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, that's one of my articles with Stadium Rent." And that's what he told me. It was just pretty cool. He said, "Yeah, man, send me your stuff and I'll follow you. And I'd like to pay attention." And so it was really neat to have Larry Vaught just recognize this. And like I said, recognize that what we're doing and the site we're using and what it looked like and how well it was visual wise and stuff. So it was just pretty cool. All right. John, I thought you would like that story too.
Yeah, I did.
About Larry. Yeah. All right, next week we'll try to do a little bit of talk about the net rankings and do a little bit about the net rankings on the Big Fuss Show, just to give you a little bit of a preview about that, because I think both men's and women's are doing pretty good at Kentucky in the net rankings. So we'll talk a little bit more about that next week on next week's Big Fuss Show. All right, we will see you guys for sure Friday night. We might throw in a Big Blue Hoop show on Thursday night for you guys this week.
Supposed to snow tonight.
So look for that. We might throw in a Big Blue Hoop show.
Supposed to get more snow, Bray.
Yep.
So
actually, they're calling it for tomorrow night here.
It's tomorrow night, I believe. Yeah. So
Wednesday night. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. This has been College SportsCast, the Big Fuss Show. And we will see you Thursday for the Big Blue Hoops or Friday for Game Day Pick'em. Y'all have a good night.
Have a good one.
Can I please have your attention? What's all the commotion around here?
What are you talking about?
Let them yap at you.
It's actually very exciting.